Hi and welcome to another episode of the Legacy Coderetreat Codecasts. Today we will talk about extract and override. I wrote this blog post about this concept, so please read it before seeing this video. We will take step by step the concepts here, and basically extract and override is a technique you want to use when you have some static dependencies that are really hard to get rid of, and it's a technique that is not that intrusive, and you can use it to detach these static dependencies so that you will allow your system to become testable to a certain extent. So let's see the code base. I have the same code base, the trivia code base. I have this problem here that if I'd like to run some tests on this game runner, the problem is that I have run them here. So I already have some tests on the game, but if I will run the tests with coverage, you'll see that I don't have any tests at all here on the game runner. The problem is that I cannot get rid of this thing easily, and of course I have a static method here. What I would normally do, I would try to characterize this system by adding a test. So I would want to do something like this. Add a test class, let's say game runner tests. I would create a test, I don't know, test runner. I will just give it a bogus name for now, and I would create an instance, game runner, then I would say game runner main with null. It's the simplest and the first thing I want to do. And then I'd like to assert equals something with some output that I want to get out from the console, right? In order to find that output, I already wrote something like this in the game tests. So I have this method get console output that I can reuse in the other tests. And how I use it is basically like this, and I need to call it before the main method being called, and here I just use it like that in order to characterize the system. So if I want to characterize the system, I run this test like that. Of course it will fail. I take all the output, I say okay, so this should be the input, this is what I expect, and yet it fails. Why does it fail? Well, because I have random, so it couldn't possibly work. As you can see here, the values of the dice are different, so whenever I run this, I will have different answers, different values, and it will have totally different outputs. So if I really want to try and test this, I cannot really start with having a kind of normal characterization test. I cannot do golden masters, I cannot do anything until I get rid of this thing. So I want to do some refactorings that are very safe But let's commit that first, because I created this test and I will ignore it, but I don't want to delete it just because it fails, because I will reuse it just a bit after that. So let's run again the tests. Now it is ignored, so I will commit wrote test for game runner that fails because we have random. The test is ignored. In order to get rid of the random, I will use the concepts of extract and override. First of all, I should create an empty class that inherits from our production class. Yes, but we could do this only if our method, which is here the add method, only if this method would be something not static. So first of all, I want to extract this to another method, let's call it run, and I want to make it a method that's not static anymore. So I can do something like new game runner run. See that it works. Let's run the production. So it still works as expected, and I can remove this static here, and it still works. So I needed to do this refactoring. Let's commit extracted method run from game runner main. So now we can really start applying the steps here. First of all, I want to create an empty class that inherits from our production class. So I want to go to the tests part, and I want to insert a new class that would be something like, I like to call it game runner for tests, and it's something like that. And now the next step is to extract this the static reference to another private method, and I want to test that the production code still works. Okay, so this should extend game runner. Okay, now I will commit this created class game runner for tests. Oh, sorry, I should have added. Okay, the next thing to do is to extract the static reference. This is what it says here: extract static reference to another private method. So I will want to extract this to a method that knows how to do random, right? So something like get random. Okay, that should be fine. And then I want to make this method protected. It was private, so I will make it protected. I want to see that the code still works. Good. So I will commit the fact that extracted method get random from game runner and made it protected. The next step to do is to change the test to use the inherited class and not the production class. So I have my game runner tests here. Instead of game runner, I'd like to use the game runner for tests. And still I cannot test. But the next step, the step 5, is to override the protected method in the new class that inherits from the production class. I'm going to game runner for tests, and I want to override this method that is in game runner called get random. So I'll just paste it. If I'm gonna run the tests now, they will fail, of course. Let's first run again the production code. So this works. Now if I run the test, I'll stop ignoring it. So if I run the tests, then it will fail, and I need to see why. The difference is clear. So what should I do now? It's obvious that here I'm using and it will fail. So what is the problem now? The problem is that in the game runner I'm always creating a new instance of game runner, so the overriding won't work. Then it's not possible to test this one, so I need to make this one public so that I will change the method I test to this one, and let's see how this will work. Again, I have a difference, but now the difference is clear. I need to put here a seed, then run again, take the output, and compare this output, transform this output into the expected part. Wow, and it works. So now I have a test that really works, and I made an override for this method getRandom. Now what I want to do is so let's commit then. Made test work for game runner. Now let's see what is the next step. I wrote already the minimum code to make the method work. I wrote the assertion, and now the last part is that I need to make to verify if the production code still works. So I am going to go to production, run the code, and everything still works. What you need to understand is that this is just an intermediate step that shows me that I can really work around the problem from the game runner, and the problem being this static reference random, this thing that cannot really be injected or changed. So here in the production code I just extracted one method. This is a very safe refactoring. It's just one line of code extracted, so there isn't any problem in doing that, even if you don't have tests. But now if I will run again testing with coverage, you can see that I covered a lot more than I had. And yes, this isn't still covered with tests, but that's just a very small part of the code, and I can test it manually, or I can use scripts to test it from the outside, or I can just test it partially by just verifying that these things are happening, and that's all. So that was extract and override. It's a very interesting technique, but it is just a stage towards a more complex refactoring. It shows us the fact that we can really refactor this thing, and it's very useful whenever you have this kind of really hardcore dependencies like random. So thank you for watching, and until next time, as always, have fun coding.